Now, Auditor-General's report has unearthed a total amount of 23,492,458 cedis unaccounted for as a result of malfeasance, cash mismanagement, procurement, and stores irregularities, contract mismanagement, as well as tax and payroll irregularities, among others. At a virtual launch of the report, Executive Director Kofi Asare reviewed how some heads of schools paid teachers their research and book allowance when there was no proof of the work done. Other schools contracted loans without required approvals. Fred Smith is joining me via Zoom with more on the highlight reviewed by the Africa Education Watch at a virtual meeting held a while ago. Hello, Fred. Fred, I'm hopeful that you hear me. What more is contained in this report? Unmute for me.
Well, in the Pond Community SHTS, for instance, the report said that the head of the PTA converted part of the E-block to a hostel facility and collected hostel fees without authorization. Another infraction occurred at the Sefiri, also SHS, where a contract for the supply of food items was abrogated and re-awarded to a contractor at a price of 13,000 Ghana cedis more. In some schools, I mentioned Anafoman SHTS, laptops which were supposed to be for students were not found when inspectors went for inspection. Some schools, as many as 57 of them, had paid unearned salaries of about 681,324 cedis to some staff. And the report found that at the Presbyterian SHS and ATTC here at Kokomlemle, for instance, some staff were no longer working in these schools for at least 5 years, were still being paid.
Fred, are there any recommendations contained in this report on the back of these infractions by the Auditor General?
Yes, indeed. In most of the instances, the AG asked the school heads to refund the monies. In cases of those still occupying bungalows, the staff had to pay the rent and vacate the premises, and where accessories were not found, the AG asked the school heads to recover them all. Where school projects were abandoned, the AG asked the management of the schools to liaise with the Ghana Education Service to prioritize completion of the said projects and use them.
Fair. So these are details that we can find in this report that has been released, correct?
Yes, indeed, Gifty.
Well, let's turn our attention to the Executive Director of the Africa Education Watch, Kofi Asare, on what they intend for government to do. Mr. Asare, thank you for your time. You have stated that these infractions are recurring, indicating there is lack of commitment on the part of management of the institutions when it comes to implementing Auditor General's recommendations and to sanction offenders. Where then do you think we should go from here?
Exactly. The worrying spectacle is that over the past 15 years, as conceded by the Deputy Auditor General who was at the launch, these dimensions have been the dimensions of malfeasance in these institutions, payroll regularities, procurement and stores irregularities, and then cash management. And that means that the public financial management law and its regulations are still not being adhered to in our senior high schools, senior high technical schools, and in our colleges of education. It is probably so because no one is going to jail for causing financial loss at that level. We are only focusing on political corruption and jailing politicians who cause financial loss. There's a higher financial loss taking place in our schools, for which, until we begin meting out punitive sanctions, prosecuting not just to disallow or surcharge, but also to actually punish people by criminally prosecuting them, should be one of the options that we have to consider moving forward. Other than that, we will be losing such huge sums of money every year, whilst people struggle in rural areas to raise funds to even build common basic school infrastructure or school desks.
Do you intend as an organization to take this up?
Yeah, we have a 5-pronged strategy. We're working with the selected media houses and then civil sector organizations. One, we are going to start engagement with the boards of these senior high schools, colleges of education, and commit the boards to ensuring that the recommendations captured in this report are implemented to the latter. Second, we are going to work with the Ministry of Education, the Ghana Education Service especially. The majority of these are GES staff. Unfortunately, the political will of the GES to pursue this, it's always in question, because even at the launch, they did not show up. But they are the agency whose staff are engaged in all this. And so we are hoping that we will secure the political will of the GES to implementing what the Auditor-General has tasked the GES to do in terms of retrieving cash from the staff, punishing school heads who may have been involved in procurement and contractual infractions and all that. And then also the third leg is that we are going to work closely with the Auditor-General and other prosecutorial agencies within the justice sector, especially IOCO and then Auditor-General, Attorney General, to ensure that we step up the prosecution of people who are culpable for most of these crimes. The only way we can have a different discussion next year is when people begin to suffer, the ramifications of their own actions after they have actually caused financial loss to the state. Other than that, we will have this discussion every other year or every year, and nothing may have changed significantly.
Are there any timelines you're looking at?
Presently, there's a new administration, a new minister, boards are being constituted. And so we will say that within the next 2 months, all senior high schools, colleges of education should have new boards. Immediately the new boards are inaugurated, one of the first meetings that are going to take place will be the meeting of these new boards on the outstanding findings. Not only these findings, in 2018, about 8 million was lost. In 2017, about 25 million, even higher than this amount was lost. We are interested in ensuring that the boards are able to implement these recommendations and other outstanding recommendations of previous Auditor-General reports, especially for staff of the Education Service, College of Education, who are still at post, to ensure that we have a more accountable education system that assures of value for money and efficiency in spending.
Well, I'm going to just let you speak about a story that I'm yet to do. It has to do with the, Rastafari brouhaha in our schools. I don't know if you have yet, taken a position or not, but I'm going to go on a break after I speak to you. So you tell me, what are your thoughts and how do you see what is happening?
Well, what is happening is unfortunate. Let me start by saying so. But it is a manifestation of the way we think, the way the ordinary Ghanaian thinks. We have various stereotypes and prejudices about Rasta people. And so these stereotypes and prejudices obviously will inform how you form an opinion about them. And so when we listen to the narrative being made by many, it goes beyond just protecting a certain order in our schools, protecting rules, to, crossing that thin line between being conservative about your rules to actually propagating hate. Some of the comments being made about them, it's totally distasteful. But that is Ghana, that is Ghana. I think that moving forward, the Ghana Education Service will have to look at ways to standardize rules and regulations in their institutions so that it doesn't happen that the old student association of School A will develop a new set of laws for their own, a peculiar set of rules for their school, and then same will be done for School B. It becomes difficult for the GES itself as a policy coordinator for pre-tertiary to coordinate. But I am also disappointed that the GES, in spite of its mandate under Section 3 of the GES Act of Act 506, being the coordinator of pre-tertiary education policy, directly responsible for providing education service, how to actually renege or withdraw or make a U-turn contrary to its first advice. The GES has a mandate to advise schools if it feels that certain decisions they take are not in the interest of the public and also in the national interest. Unfortunately, they had to backtrack, obviously because they don't want to get into the tangle with the teacher unions. because there had been a press conference by NAGRAT, and the teacher unions are very powerful. So considering the right of 2 students vis-a-vis about 100,000 teachers going on strike, they took the easier option of, withdrawing or retreating, and more or less leaving the lives of the 2 senior high school students in the limbo. But we pray that their parents will find schools for them in Ghana. After all, they have been educated all this while by Ghanaian teachers in Ghanaian schools. They did not seek an education at the basic level in any country but in Ghana. And so we hope that they will find schools in Ghana, continue their education, and come back and serve Ghana, to serve as a lesson, as part of a long process of reorientation that we need to go through to see the black man as part of us.
Kwame, Kofi Asare, thank you very much. He's the Executive Director of Africa Education Watch, helping us with this thought.